Praise to you, Lord Christ. Amen. I grew up in the Imperial Valley. Hot desert. 120 in the shade. Hot. Any which way you wanted to travel, whether it was towards San Diego and the ocean, Los Angeles and culture, Arizona and the mountains, any which way you had to drive long miles through hot rock and sand and cactus. You thought about the trip you were about to take with your children. You prepared. Carried water, always carried water. Checked your oil levels, your tires, filled up your tank. At least we did. We traveled without air conditioning, well, roll down windows, in older cars. And at the time, there were precious few gas stations or rest stops along the way. Running out of gas or getting a flat tire, having your car break down, you might be out in the heat for a while. And that would be unpleasant at best. For my brothers and me, all this thoughtfulness and mindfulness and preparation before traveling was a great lesson in reality. In the desert, you don't act foolishly or thoughtlessly. The consequences are very high. Likewise, when you sign a contract to buy a house or to take out a loan for your college education, you definitely want to read the contract, the fine print. When you get married, you want to do so with thoughtful intention, not just romantic notions that everything is going to be fine. In sickness and in health, in riches and poverty, till death do us part, that's a vow that's important to think through as much as possible. Now, of course, there's always a place for sheer recklessness and optimism and hope and prayer and grace. If there wasn't, nobody would risk taking their children on a journey across the desert in an old car, or taking on future debt for a current education, or putting down roots in the housing market, or making a lifetime alliance with another human being. So dreams and hopes and taking those leaps of faith are critical, but so is thoughtfulness and mindfulness and preparation. So when the crowds are tagging along with Jesus as he is on his way to Jerusalem, meaning on his way to almost certain crucifixion, they have no idea what being with him actually is going to mean. They've given no thought to this. They're just caught up in the love of the moment, the great food, the wine, the healings, the preaching about how their lives matter. Jesus stops and has a heart-to-heart talk with them. There's a current saying, it's called a come to Jesus moment. I'm not really sure what it means. I don't really like the term. But it seems to be used in the context of getting your head out of the sand and awakening to some reality in your life. And this is one of those moments for all those people, all this crowd following him, and for us as his followers. When Jesus says, count the cost of following me, he means it. In our terms, he might be saying, look, you can like me. You can pretend to like me. You can be my fan. You can like me on my Facebook page. But give some real thought as to what it means to be my disciple. Someone whose life is consecrated to transformation in the way of the cross. Someone who commits to follow me all the way through to abundant life by way of the cross. And in the process, be transformed into a whole new way of seeing and living. Because here's the thing. To enter the kingdom by way of following me, it will cost you everything. Kind of knocks the breath out, right? Does he really mean that in order to be able to follow him, we have to hate our families? Or give up all our possessions? One of the first things we want to do when we hear harsh sayings like this is to tame them. Give them kind of a suburban makeover. Scrub out the grit and the grunge. After all, he was a Middle Eastern, Palestinian, first century Jew. He loved hyperbole. But even in a hyperbole-loving culture, he definitely thinned the crowds with this kind of talk. Want to follow me? Hate family, carry the cross, give up all your possessions. Jesus seemed to prefer small groups anyway. Whenever large crowds surround him, he usually finds some way to thin them out. And this does it. And we do it all over again in our national God culture that somehow equates the gospel of Jesus with the prosperity gospel, or the gospel of Jesus with the gospel that calls for discrimination against the homeless or the alien or the transgendered, or the gospel of Jesus with a gospel that preaches revenge against one's enemies. We are a large crowd with our hands over our ears shouting, la la la, I can't hear you. So even for those of us who do hear this gospel of Jesus, it pays to read the fine print and count the cost. And keep ever before us the reward, which is transformation of consciousness, of relationship, which is fullness of life, which is radical peace of mind and heart. Because the truth is, your children are not yours to begin with. Trying to possess them only imprisons them and you. Trying to possess anything, really, is like trying to hold on to water or sand. It is bound to fail, bound to bring disappointment. We can learn something about this from our Buddhist brothers and sisters in light of these harsh, hard sayings of Jesus. In his book, Coming to Our Senses, Jon Kabat-Zinn writes, "It is our attachment to the thoughts we have of who we are that may be the impediment to living life fully, and a stubborn obstacle to any realization of who and what we actually are, and of what is important, and of what is possible. It may be that in clinging to our self-referential ways of seeing and being, to the parts of speech we call personal pronouns, I, me, mine, it's in clinging to that we sustain the unexamined habit of grasping and clinging to what is not fundamental, all the while missing or forgetting what is. In Zen mind, beginner's mind, Shunryu Suzuki writes, "We must have a beginner's mind, free from possessing anything. A mind that knows that everything is in flowing change. Nothing exists except momentarily in its present form and color. One thing flows into another and cannot be grasped. Because the rain stops, we hear a bird. Even under the heavy snow, we see snowdrops and some new growth. You are not able to be my disciples if you do not give up all your possessing." That's the fine print, my friends. And I urge you to give it your attention, your thoughtfulness, your travels as a disciple through the untold troubles that are brought on by actually loving your neighbor as yourself. That's the journey we are on. And you don't want to be caught off guard. But even as you read the fine print, also know this, that when you give up possessing, clinging, hanging on as though you were entitled, when you consecrate your life to following Jesus, you gain intimate fellowship, eternal life, and joys divine. There was a reason we got into that un-air-conditioned car and made our way across the hot desert sands. And that was so that we could splash in the waters of the Pacific, or eat with my grandparents, or wander at the quaking aspen in the white mountains of Arizona, to hear the Los Angeles Philharmonic. Was the occasional breakdown worth it? You bet. And we carried plenty of water. At At communion, we're going to sing, Take My Life and Let It Be. These are the words. And when you're taking communion, let it be a song, a time and a song of consecration. Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to Thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of Thy love. Take my heart, it is Thine own. It shall be Thy royal throne. Take my voice and let me sing only and always for my King. Take my intellect and use every power as Thou shalt choose. Take my will and make it Thine. It shall be no longer mine. Take myself and I will be ever only all for Thee. May this be so. Amen.